Last time we talked a little bit about the great civilizations that developed in Mesoamerica. This time we're going to focus in North America and take a look at the early Native American cultures that developed here, particularly in the area that we refer to today as the Four Corners, right, between Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. One of the earliest Native American tribes that settled in this northern portion of America were known as the Anasazi. And the Anasazi had many different types of homes as they became more accustomed to the region, which in this region of the United States continues to be a very dry, desert like region. At first, they lived in pit houses, which were partially dug underground. And then later on, they discovered the use of adobe, which you still find a lot of adobe houses in the Southwest, which is the clay-like substance that's found in the Southwest. And they started to create these kind of multi-story apartment-like buildings that were referred to as pueblos. And in addition to these pueblos, we also had cliff dwellings where they actually built their homes into the sides of the cliff walls along the mountains in the deserts. So these were three types of homes that were common within the Anasazi people. They were also very highly religious, and their religious kind of ceremonial chambers were known as kivas, right? And they were also almost underground ceremonial chambers, kind of like a cave. And that's where they practice all of their religious rituals and ceremonies. Because of this desert-like area, the Anasazi became very skilled farmers in learning different types of irrigation techniques to be able to grow crops in this very dry climate. Eventually, over time, though, the Anasazi, which were a very large group of people living together, they began to split into smaller groups. Nobody really knows why the Anasazi began to divide themselves into smaller groups, but by 1300, they were now very small tribes living in the region. There's many theories associated as to why they might have split up. It could have been just an increase of drought and not enough water and food to go around for everyone, war if they started to fight against each other, or the fact that they began to use up a lot of the natural resources that were around them. But the Anasazi are definitely one of the earliest North American tribes that developed here in the United States. In addition to them, we also have groups known as the Mound Builders because of the fact that they built these large earthen mounds. Most believe they were either for temples or for burial markers, kind of like burial sites. These mound builders were found all across the central part of the United States, large into the areas all the way down to Mississippi and across the central part of the United States. These mounds are very similar in shape to those pyramids that were built by the Mesoamerican civilizations like the Mayas and the Aztecs. That might be giving us a clue that perhaps these groups actually migrated out of Mesoamerica into North America and perhaps were actual descendants from those groups in Mesoamerica who settled here. So they may have originally come down from Mesoamerica and then moved their way up into North America. Today, you can still find mounds left by the mound builders in different parts of the U.S. The one pictured here is actually in Collinsville, Illinois, known as Monk's Mound, which you can visit. But these were the types of mounds that were built all across the central part of the United States as part of the ritual of religious rites from these early groups of people. So these are the earliest types of tribes that came over to the U.S. Into the northern portion of America. We're going to continue talking about the different Native American tribes that developed throughout the United States and the different cultures that developed with these tribes because of where they settled. The region that they settled is greatly going to affect the way that these tribes interacted and how they created their homes and their clothes and the foods that they had to eat, right? We know that the environment is a very important part in developing the culture of people depending on where they're living. So stay tuned.